kind of a little book, 30, 40 pages, excellent book on the servant leader. That basically said the purpose of a leader is to serve the people they lead. That's what leaders should be doing. And we forget that a lot. So that's really why I mentioned that. Also, the ethics comes right in, and you'll see how ethics are incorporated into it. I just mentioned the three most popular ones. Duty means it's your duty to serve. You know, that's a much more like a Christian thing too. The rights-based is everybody has a right to smoke, but then the contra argument is everybody has a right to clean air. So, you know, none of these are cut and dry. A utilitarian is maximum good for the maximum people, so you go ahead and bomb Hiroshima and kill, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people, but you stop the death of millions maybe. So, you know, that's utilitarian. What's good for most is good for the action. These are just different theories. But all these theories usually take you to the right answer. If you really think about it, we'll talk about how we apply these in purposeful action. So a little bit word on technology, since we are engineers. I'm an engineer. We talk about technology. How does technology leadership differ from leadership? And, you know, basically it's the domain knowledge is very important. If you are technical managers and technology, you need to know the subject very well. Whereas if it's a non-technical corporation, you generally can manage with a shallower knowledge. Take the case of people who started and run Microsoft or Intel or Hewlett-Packard. You know, they were very Andy Grove, you know, very competent in the field. The other characteristic, it changes very quickly. And now, with the situation there, technology is always global. We talk about global. Interestingly, these are the astronomical equipment out in India, what, 1800 years ago. So I was there recently and took some pictures of that. That's technology in those days. But you know, it's global, and we say it's global today, but this was global then. These are guys that came in from Saudi Arabia, that area, from the Middle East to do this work. This is the Taj Mahal, and that's the Golden Temple in Amritsar. Pretty good technology. That's been there 500 years, about the same. Both these and stand just looked like they were new. A lot of construction. I mentioned here intellectual property. You know, we talk about pirated software in the US. So if you have technology, you have to worry about it because it's usually innovative. And it is intangible in the sense it's not like huge power plants that you can protect with an armed guard. On nuclear side, it's the knowledge behind it, and the knowledge can be stolen. And the knowledge can be, you know, we were about nuclear proliferation, not just the plutonium, but the knowledge to build plutonium. So that's proliferation. But it's very interesting, I was looking at the Taj Mahal, and I said, did they have intellectual property concerns in those days? What do you think? Did they or did they not? These were very, very established. And anybody have an idea what they did to protect their non-disclosures and non-compete? No idea, right? Would you like to know? The emperor chopped their hands off of the artisans. So no compete. Isn't that interesting? After years of labor. So what I'm saying is some of the challenges we have faced, we've been around. People have different ways of solving it. We couldn't do that right now. And then there are different levels of technology enterprises. You know, FedEx, for example, they apply technology, very highly technical, but they don't develop the technology. So in FedEx, the leaders has to be very knowledgeable of how to apply technology, but mostly they're interested in communication, logistics, etc. That's the big thing, and they use technology. But on the other hand, Intel is much more interested and worried about how they compete with AMD. Okay, in doing this, especially if you look at your personal life, and I got very interested in that years ago. A metaphor for action is flow. And I won't talk much about it, but just give you the idea that flow, just as the flow of water creates a brook. If you go to Tennessee River and pull a cup of water out of that, can you tell me this is Tennessee River? What is it? It's just a cup of water, right? But you pour it back into the river, what does it become? It becomes a river. So river is the flow of water, a brook. Same thing with actions. Action is life. Life is the flow of actions. You stop acting, you're no longer living. You guys come, you have breakfast, you have meetings. It's a live cloud. If you didn't do this, it would not be living. So that is life. So action creates life, just like flow. Mind is the flow of thoughts. So these are the metaphors we use. And you have turbulence, and you have navigators of the right waters. And that's what I wanted to show you, the metaphor here. There's a lot of turbulence, you have a lot of obstructions, distractions. So what are the elements that the navigator or the individual who is performing action, which is you have to think about action, how to act or not to act, when to act, how to act, what to do, what action to take. Somebody doesn't perform well, do you fire them or do you sit down and retrain them? How many times have you retrained them? How much do you pay them? What's the market value of similar people outside? Are these decisions come through? You've got to take action. How do you decide on that action? We'll talk about it. You decide based on your values. Somebody's been with you for years. We have an employee, been with us 20 years. He has cancer. So what do? Fire him? No. We said as long as you're there, just keep book as much as you want, take all your treatment, we'll keep him on board. That's value. So the action is based on value, not based on the most efficient thing on action alone. So you balance it. If you don't balance it, then you're pretty much in a very mechanical, you're a robot. You're what they call an efficient manager, except when it comes to values to pay yourself, even if the company fails. We've seen a lot of that. So values are very important. The other thing is desires. Where do values come from? Well, we all have basic desires. You know, the 4 levels of desire. Maslow was a great behavioral psychologist who built a whole laundry list, but the ancient Aryans had 4 levels, and I'm going to talk about those 4. You can have your own protocol for it, but we've got one. And finally, you decide this is the nexus. You know, people talk about body, mind, and spirit. Action, value, and desire kind of represent body, mind, spirit. And we say we've got to integrate all 3. Well, that's the nexus of the human being. But I think one has to go beyond the nexus because you're in the river with other navigators. That's what the last little caption down there represents. And that's what this book I wrote about is. This is a final collection of my work after 15 years. It just came out a few months ago. Where you go beyond the nexus, you have to relate to others. You've got to figure out how that works. What we're doing today is relating to others. I'm sitting here coming and sharing with you what I have to put in front of you. You know, and my message is take a look at what you can, you know, use any of it that you can. And that's relating, that's one way. So we have now as engineers, we have a whole system that incorporates these 4 things. Those are the 4 principles.